Hello all and welcome, and I am the MGTOW philosopher, and in this video I would like to talk about why women are rejecting perfect men. Now let's begin with this article written by Dr. Sean T. Smith. A few weeks ago, psychologist Randy Gunther discussed the fact that women still initiate the majority of divorces, even after men dutifully followed women into the new millennium. It wasn't supposed to be this way. We men learned how to change diapers and cook risotto. We learned to watch for barely perceptible nods of women before opening doors for women. There's your first mistake, pussy. Opening doors for them. We even learned to manscape, for goodness sake. Okay, this is the problem with feminism, okay? Women are short-sighted. They can't see the future possible unintended consequences of their stupid actions. This is all because of equality. Oh, yes, let's push this bullshit idea of equality so that we can get men's jobs and take men's money and make as much money as men and game the system and get the custody of kids and therefore get child support and get alimony. Meanwhile, when you're pushing this agenda, do you realize that as you're pushing this equality, egalitarian bullshit, that you're not only turning yourselves into men, but you're turning men into women? And since men chase the pussy, always have, always will, at least it seems like it. I sure hope that trend doesn't continue, but they sure as hell always have for the most part. They are easily manipulated by women because the young guys especially want that pussy, so they'll do whatever they must to get it. And by the way, young guys were raised, in the majority, it's starting to become the majority, by single mothers. 40% with, more than 40% by of whites are being raised by single mothers, and 70% of blacks are being raised by single mothers. So you're essentially raising boys to be men. You're indoctrinating them to be men. You're incentivizing them to become like women, okay? And then you're wondering what the hell happened. Well, I'll tell you what happened. Equality happened, you dummies. It goes on to say, women were supposed to be happy with the new variety of men. That's your first mistake, guys, expecting a woman to be happy. She'll never be happy, so don't try to please her. Yet they are divorcing us just like they divorced our insensitive forefathers. Of course, because women are never happy in the first place. You treat them like crap, they call you a jerk. If you're nice, you're too nice. It doesn't make a difference what you do. You'll never make them happy. Professor Gadsad reported that American women initiate 69% of divorce. That's a lie. That number should be a 90%. It's actually 90%. That number is a bullshit lie, okay? I'd like to see that. What's their focus group? No focus group, just all women, including women from, Mexico and El Salvador and China. It's just every American, and that's one sample size. Take them for a year of total. How many of those are Americans? Trust me, those numbers are bullshit. The most recent British statistic is 72%. Those numbers are cooked. The number of marriages being initiated by women is the vast majority, like 9 out of 10. Dr. Gunther, who specializes in repairing relationships, describes some of the unhappily divorced men she meets in her office. It's a her. Oh, my. So her commenting on it must be a real problem because as a female, she's naturally a feminist. At least to a certain extent. Dr. Gunther, who specializes in repairing relationships, describes some of the unhappily divorced men she meets in her office. I am currently dealing with several of these great husbands. They're not great, honey. They are across the board respectful, quality, caring, devoted, cherishing, authentic, and supportive. Holy shit, how many adjectives is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Holy shit. She's a feminist, all right, because she thinks all these are great qualities. No, they're not. They're men. Women want men. They're going to complain either way. They're never going to be happy, but they'll be happier with a real man than they will a pussy, okay? And supportive guys whose wives have left them for a different kind of man. Right, yeah, bad boys. Who is this different kind of man? Why do women quit their marriages to pursue him? Dr. Gunther continues. The women I've treated who have left their husbands for more masculine men. That's funny. Well, you ladies made the majority of men into pussy eunuchs by creating a system that disenfranchises the man, where it's so easy for the woman to leave the husband, and she actually benefits from doing so, that the boys grow up without fathers and become like women, and then the women who get pissed off because they treated men like shit and then their husbands left them and they're wondering why, and then they rail against men and get all angry, even though it's their fault, and they cast men in a poor light for their boys, and then those boys grow up to be men who have internalized misandry, hatred of themselves, hatred of men, and try to be more like women. You have essentially created these men who you now don't even want to be married to. And you're going back to the so-called bad boys, the masculine men that you say you didn't want before, the toxically masculine men. The women I have treated who have left their husbands for masculine men believe that their new relationships would be able to both excite and nurture them. And that's what women really want. They just want to be excited. They're like little children. They're like little children. And, ooh, put on a light show for me. Ooh, boy, fireworks. Ooh, entertain me. Nurture them. Meaning you're big, you're strong, you make me feel safe. All childish bullshit. Clearly, this new stud is virile. He's exciting. He possesses something that the perfect husband does not. Perfect husband. Perfect to who? Feminists, of course. He does all the things we don't want to do as women, even though that's really our job as a woman, but we don't want to do that stuff. Okay. And you wonder why these guys are something that actual women don't want. And besides, by the way, all these feminists who talk about this guy being the perfect guy, most of them are single. Okay? You ever notice that? Feminists are big, fat, ugly, disgusting slobs with no husbands and no prospects, and they talk about the perfect man. Give me a break. Dr. Gunther didn't say it, but I will. It sounds as if many of today's perfect, sensitive, cherishing men are, how shall I put this, boring. Yeah, that's about right. They're boring. They're pussies who are essentially putting that vagina on a pedestal and worshiping it on their knees like it's a god or something. And they're wondering why the woman up on the pedestal is like, this guy's kind of a pussy. What's he worshiping me for? I'm 110 pounds. There's nothing particularly special about me. And even women know that there's nothing particularly special about them. So any man that worships them, they're like, what the fuck? He's stronger. He's smarter. He's got more earning potential than me. What the fuck's he down on his knees for worshiping me? And who can blame women for being bored with men these days? I can't. This is the perfect example of a blue-pilled guy. This article is the blue pill man verbatim. This is the perfect definition of a blue pill guy, the perfect man. And women don't want him. Far too many of us have lost our masculine fortitude. That fortitude has nothing to do with being dominant or avoiding vacuum cleaners. Well, it has something to do with being dominant, you meathead, though not avoiding vacuum cleaners. Although, now, come on now. Actually, I disagree with that. We shouldn't be vacuuming the floors unless she's making the majority of the money and we're staying at home. And if we're doing that, we're a pussy. It's a product of solid values and strong backbones. Well, wouldn't a strong backbone translate into being dominant? Okay. Anyway, let me tell you about Jen and Steve. Ah, yes, we have the example couple, of course. A young married couple I knew. By the time I met them, Jen had come to dislike almost everything about Steve. She's only been married to him a few years and she dislikes him. This is the perfect example of women. They marry a guy and then they come to resent him. But, honey, you knew what he was like before you married him. Why did you marry him if you didn't like him? Jesus Christ, it only takes 2 or 3 years for you to come to resent him? Well, clearly you married the wrong guy, though, and you must have knew what he was like before you married him, okay? People don't change, and they don't change that much. She was irritated by the way he talked. Except for women. Women change because first they use sex to get you in, and then they stop giving it to you. That's an act that they're putting on. This guy wasn't putting on an act. I'm sure he was being himself, and you knew who he was, and you married him anyway. She was irritated by the way he talked. Men, take this as a lesson. You cannot please women. There's no way to please them, so don't try. Don't put up with their bullshit. Put them in their place. They'll be much happier that way. They still won't be happy, but they'll be a hell of a lot happier than they're with some cuck simp pussy like this guy. She disliked his lack of ambition. He was unambitious when you married him. What did you think he was going to change? This is typical of all women. Women think that they marry a guy, if he has potential, she can change him. If he has no ambition but potential, she can change him to have ambition. No. You cannot change other people. They have to want to change themselves. And this applies to women, too. Guys out there, if you think you're going to change a woman, you can't. They're even harder to change than men. And you can't change either of them in the first place. So don't even try. But this is typical of women. Yeah, they like your little DIY projects. They like to fix things. They like to remodel houses. And, they like to change people. They like project people. They like project people. That'll be a long project that they can work on. makes him feel empowered. But it's bullshit. You're not going to change him. She hated the way he hid in the basement and smoked pot. You didn't know he smoked pot before you married him? And by the way, why is he having to hide in the basement? I assumed he smoked pot when you met him. Did he have to hide then? And what, you obviously changed too, honey. What are you talking about? Because when you married him, clearly pot was no problem, but now he has to hide in the basement? So you changed. You came to have a problem with everything you didn't have a problem with before you married him. And that is a false bill of goods. That is you baiting a guy. She baited him. She acted like she had no problem with this. She had no problem with that. She had no problem with his lack of ambition. She had no problem with him smoking pot. Right, bait and switch. And then she's saying, he's lacking ambition and he smokes pot. You knew all these things when you married him. He wasn't dishonest, but you were dishonest. You represented yourself as somebody that was tolerant and liked these things. Women are always dishonest, even with themselves, and they always think that they can change other people, and they can't. Most of all, she loathed his obsequious behavior toward her. When I hear that word obsequious, I think of Gollum in the Lord of the Rings movies. Well, yeah, that's today's guys, crawling around on all fours, trying to please women. He tried desperately to please her, insulate himself from her disapproval. See, that's his mistake. Women are constantly going to be shit-testing guys, and you can't fail it, or they will lose respect for you, and they won't like you. I don't give a shit if a woman approves of me. She can kiss my motherfucking ass, and by the way, I'd never be stupid enough to marry a woman, because once she's got me to sign that contract, okay, then she's going to be on her worst behavior. But if I never sign that contract, and she's always hoping I will, she's going to be on her best behavior. And that's just all it is to it. And women, by the way, she's angry and upset by his obsequious behavior. She had no problem with it before they got married. Of course, because she wanted to get married. And she thought she could change him. So she acted the part of the dutiful, good woman who was tolerant. That changed, of course, when she got married. She only has herself to blame. But his effort had a paradoxical effect. Right, it irritated her, of course. Who wants some worm crawling around on all fours trying to please them? You're not going to respect them. You can look on them with disdain. She felt as if she had mistakenly married a sad and docile eunuch. You married a eunuch, bitch! You knew he was a docile pussy when you married him. Why are you complaining? And guys, another perfect example, do not try to please a woman. You can't please her. Be a dick, be a fucking asshole, because that's what they like. They don't want somebody who's going to try to please them. No fucking way. It hadn't always been that way. Bitch, bullshit, you're lying because you're trying to remove responsibility from yourself. Oh, he changed, did he? Let's see. I guarantee you after this paragraph, I'll prove that she's lying. It hadn't always been that way. When they first met, she was attracted to his jovial, gregarious nature. Well, that doesn't say anything about him being more ambitious. So he's still jovial and gregarious now, probably less jovial and less gregarious because they're constantly arguing with him and constantly treating him like crap because now you hate him. That changed. But he was no more ambitious. Notice she doesn't say that. He wasn't pursuing any particular passion. Like, what? Bitch, you just said now he's not ambitious. Before he wasn't ambitious, but you just said it wasn't always like that. Where is your grasp of logic and reason? You just contradicted yourself. You said he wasn't like that. Now you're saying he was like that. So yeah, he was a guy with no ambition before you married him. So what the fuck are you complaining about? Oh, she wants to be able to complain. See, women do these substitutions in their head. Oh, he changed. How? Oh, he was more gregarious and jovial. But you're complaining about him not being ambitious. That's what you're complaining about. So assume when you say that he changed, you mean he was more ambitious before. Oh, no, he was just as big a loser. He wasn't ambitious then either. Translation, he had potential and she thought she could change him. Yeah. He wasn't pursuing any particular passion in life, but he was motivated and eager to please. So, yeah, he was obsequious then too. Nothing changed, bitch. That's right. He just didn't change, and that's what you wanted. You got what you married. You're just pissed because you weren't able to manipulate and change him. Instead of your efforts to changing him, he buckled under instead. And of course he had a single mother. And of course he had a pussy husband. And he's been raised by society and a media and a government and an education system that portrays men as pussies and tells them to bow down to the pussy and tells them to be pussies. And it portrays them as jokes and that they should be more feminine, not masculine, and cry and change diapers and shit. And now you're pissed that that's what you got. Too bad, bitch. Unintended consequences, you dummy. Oh, feminism is blown up in your face, and you can't find a man that pleases you or makes you happy. Good. You get what you deserve. His bosses praised him, and his rent was always on time. Jen liked those calls. Oh, his rent is now on time now, too. And I'm sure his bosses still praise him. But he hasn't advanced because he has no ambition. He's reliable and stable, but he's making the same amount of money now as he did then, and he has no ambition, so I'm not getting the big money I hoped I would get because of the potential I saw in him. Translation, I am a gold digger who was making an investment in a man, and I thought it would pay off big time, and it hasn't. I see. But after a few years of marriage, Steve was simply not the spirited man he had once been. Yeah, because he's a pussy, and you, with your manipulations and attempts to change him by using shaming language and constantly arguing with him and putting him down, have turned him into a shell of a man or what he once was, because he was never a man to begin with. And Jen's hostility toward him was born of loneliness. You mean that her hostility towards him created that sense of loneliness. That's what it did. Jen would frequently goad him into She purposely argued with him. Unbelievable. And she thought that would produce a positive outcome. Go fuck yourself, bitch. I tell you, there's the fucking door. Use it. That's what this guy needs, a backbone. Goad him into arguments in hopes of rousing a spark of light, but invariably Steve would bend to her will and slink away. You pussy, you! Kick her motherfucking ass to the curb, and she'll be begging you for a second chance and making you a fucking sandwich in a heartbeat. That only left her feeling more isolated. Yeah, bitch, you've done it to yourself. You've done it to yourself. You treat men like crap, and you create a society, you create a culture, you create a government and an educational system and a media that programs men to be a certain way, and then you complain about what you created. Go fuck yourself. Ay, ay, ay. Privately, he complained that she was impossible to please. Of course, the ways that he's trying to please her are being obsequious and trying to please her, which she doesn't want. She gripes about everything. I just can't win. He was blind to the fact that his efforts to please her had created a perverse cycle of disappointment. Right. You can't please her. You can't please women. So fuck them. Tell them to fuck off. That won't please them outwardly, but it'll please them somewhat inwardly. From my vantage point, it seemed that Steve had never defined what was important to him. Right. Steve is one of those pussy-ass, wimpy millennials who essentially never learned what it means to be a man. He hasn't developed his logic, his reasoning skills, and most importantly, his self-awareness. So Steve doesn't know who he is. He doesn't want to know what he wants to do with his life, where he wants to go with his life. So he has no focus, no direction. And he's a grown man in a fucking marriage. Big shock she's not pleased with him. But she created that, and all women have created that man. They only have themselves to blame. He was motivated but directionless. His ship was propelled aimlessly by the ever-changing winds of other people's desires. Right, because women essentially want men to serve them. But if they get a man that serves them, they're not happy. And then they're like, jeez, why am I not happy? I got all I want. Because what you wanted was not what you needed, you dumb cunts. And you got the unintended consequence of creating women. And for those women that want to actually be with men, that's a problem. Since he had never practiced defining or defending his own values, he was unable to constructively negotiate differences of opinion. Right, he didn't know how to debate, he doesn't know how to use logic, he doesn't know how to use women because he's essentially like a woman. That's what society wanted, that's what feminism wanted to create, because then those are people who will be mindless drones and do whatever they're told. But on the individual level, it creates a problem for women because it's not what they want, and they're all unhappy, and it's been objectively proven through science. Study after study has shown that women are less happy than they were 50, 60 years ago, while men are more happy than they were 50, 60 years ago. You know why? Because more men are single, and they're seeing the bullshit that women put men through, and they're deciding to go their own way, while women can't find a real man, and now that proves objectively that women need a man, and if they don't have a man, they're less happy than we are. Boom, baby! In effect, an important piece of his vocabulary was missing. He lacked the words to describe his own motivations. Yeah, he's lacking self-awareness. That vocabulary is vital in marriage. Yeah, you got to know who you are and what you want. Steve was essentially useless. You created that, ladies! When normal relationship friction arose with Jen. Right, because he's a pussy, and he's just going to cave, and he doesn't know how to assert his own wants and needs because he doesn't know what they are. And he had no toolbox for negotiating when their desires inevitably diverged. So he simply acquiesced. Pussy, pussy, pussy. And that was what you married, so don't complain. Ironically, this made Jem deeply unsatisfied. This strong woman had never intended to marry an insecure man. What do you mean never? What? Oh my God, don't tell me you didn't know what he was before you married him. You must have known each other for at least a year, or years for that matter. You dated. You saw that he gave you what you wanted. You got what you wanted. He was stable, and he seemed pliable, so you could manipulate him. The only problem was you didn't realize that you couldn't manipulate him into something he wasn't, which was a guy that had ambition. So that he could make you a lot of money, and so that you could be even more comfortable, and that you could hold him up like a little fucking doll to your girlfriends and say, hey, look at my status symbol. I am a successful man now. This began to change after Steve engaged in some diligent soul searching. He began unearthing his values and his ambitions. He put words to his own joys and dissatisfactions. So as a man, she instructed him to do some soul searching, to become a little more self-aware, to delve deep within himself, like I talked about in my video, the blue pill empty man syndrome. I suggest all of you watch it. It'll open your eyes, if you haven't been fully red-pilled, to how you should be as a man. And so he started learning about maybe a small fraction of what is self-actualization, and to find out what in his life makes him happy, what he wants to do, what his goals are, and suddenly things started to change. He learned to put voice, because you have to know something before you can put voice to it. And eventually, he emerged from the basement and stopped cowering from Jen's disapproval. He even gave up marijuana, which he shouldn't have done, because you shouldn't give up anything for a woman. If you have to fucking sacrifice something, fuck her, kick her ass out. You shouldn't have to sacrifice anything. If she doesn't like you for who you are, she should have never married you in the first place, which had served to insulate him from the emptiness of their marriage. Oh, please, that's bullshit. He started taking charge of his life, pursuing an important professional goal, and vowing to improve his relationship with Jem. See, I actually don't approve of this. I would have said he should divorce her because she married him under false pretenses. She knew exactly who she was, and she didn't like who he was, but she married him anyway with hopes that she could manipulate and change him. When he found out what a cunt she was and how empty he was and how lacking he was in direction for his life, and then he found out how unrealistic his wife's expectations were, how she married him not because she liked who he was, but she hoped that he would become something more. I'd have booted her ass to the curb, and I would have improved myself for me, not for some dumb cunt bitch. And then I would have found a younger chick who would be more appreciative of the guy who pays all the fucking bills, you cunt. Finally, something astonishing happened on Saturday morning when Jen instructed him to accompany her to a baby shower. He declined. No thanks, he said. I'm going golfing. Give my best to the mother. And, of course, she would have argued with him and had a problem with him. So women, either way, will be unhappy in the moment. You just happen to tell them to go fuck themselves, because if you do that, they'll be less unhappy. Maybe not in the moment, but in the long term. That's when Steve and Jen began to rediscover their joy they had known in the early days of their marriage. Right, when she wasn't a nagging cunt bitch who essentially was still happy with who he was and figured, well, I've got years to change him. And then after years, he hadn't changed, and she essentially became disillusioned with the marriage. And now she had wanted to get out because I need the monkey branch. I need to get to that more I need to be hypergamous. I need to find a guy I need to create as many excuses as I possibly can to find a more successful guy. So I'm going to nitpick every little fucking thing to death to give me a probable cause reason to get out of this fucking marriage. Of course, now he's actually starting to change for her. She was grateful that his vibrance and ambition had returned. There was no ambition in the first place. He changed for her, which is a big mistake. This marriage will not last. I guarantee you it will not last. You do not change for other people. You should change for yourself. She's not worth it for you to change. I don't object to this guy changing. It sounds like he was a fucking blue pill loser moron, but it's the reasons that I object to. He shouldn't be changing for her. He was present again. Yeah, because he stood up to you and put you in your fucking place. She was grateful that his vibrance and ambition had returned. He never had any ambition to begin with. You admitted that. And his vibrance came back because you stopped being a nagging cunt because he stood up to your bully ass. And she couldn't care less if he attended her baby shower. Bullshit. Then why ask him to, cunt? Women like this, they'll never be pleased. They'll always act displeased. But they'll be more pleased if you stand up to them. That is a fact. In his desperation to avoid disapproval, Steve had become, as he put it, a pandering milk toast. What healthy person, male or female, wants to be hitched to that? Nobody, and by the way, that's what she married. Pandering is a natural trap for men because we find joy and meaning in serving women. No, I don't find joy in serving women. And you You fucking Dear Abby wannabe piece of shit, advising this guy to change and being happy that he's changed and promoting his change is a good thing and saying that men find joy and meaning in serving women is a good thing is bullshit. Do not find joy or meaning in serving women. Serve yourself. Put yourself first. The drive to impress is quite literally imprinted on male DNA. Go fuck yourself. Show me the DNA that's imprinted with our need to impress women. And if it's there, I'm going to change it. I'm going to deny it. I'm going to work against it because it's not good for me. We have a lot of desires that are bad for us. And we have our logic and reason, okay, to tell us don't do that. So don't tell me I need to follow some biological imperative and do this shit that's actually going to be objectively bad for me because it's good for you, cunt. But there's a fine line between living to serve and living in fear of disapproval. Go fuck yourself. I don't live to serve. I'm not your slave. I'm not your hand servant. I'm not your indentured service. I'm not going to fucking ply your field or do anything for you. Fuck you. I'm afraid that many men have confused normal, healthy descent with a failure to serve. They're pussies created by single moms and a government, media, and education system designed to favor women and teach that masculinity is bad. They feel ineffectual and they withdraw. They're pussies. They're pussies, okay? That's all they are, and they need the red pill, not your bullshit psychoanalysis. Withdrawal is a common male behavior in relationships, but it's beginning to seem the entire groups of men are withdrawing from women in general. This is too fucking long. I gotta read this fucking fast. Dr. Ellen Smith was documented the male exodus from institutions like marriage and higher education. I think these men are retreating from the sense that nothing they do is good enough. Correct. And why wouldn't you retreat? Get away from that toxic femininity. And women will forever be unhappy with them. Right. I guarantee you, this bitch cunt that he's with won't be happy forever. He'll never be good enough for her. They'll eventually divorce. She'll find somebody better who makes more money before she's too old and hits the wall. I guarantee it. They're propelled even further by a small but vocal contingent of women who provide a steady stream of anger and desire. What is this? Small but vocal contingent. That's all women, bitch. How many women have you dated, cunt? Oh, 0. So you don't have a fucking clue how they treat men or how they act toward men. That's all women, bitch. There are plenty of male malcontents who fuel discord between the genders. Male malcontents. Oh, I'm a malcontent and I'm fueling the discord. There's no discord there. It's just a small thing. And us men are somehow fueling it. Men like me. Yeah, we're just, oh, look at this, my advice. Let's not allow their perpetual grunts on either side to lead the discussion. Yeah, let's let cunts like you, who want to empower themselves and continue to enfranchise women and give bad advice to men and tell men they need to change for women and become what women want so that you can get along with your woman and be something you're not and don't change for yourself. Yeah, right. That's a real good idea, bitch. Yeah, I'm a malcontent. Go fuck yourself. I ain't no malcontent, bitch. I'm red-pilled, and I see reality for what it is, and I see that you are the problem. Back to Dr. Gunther. She has zeroed in on the question that I believe many men are struggling with. How do they hold on to their vulnerability? Bitch, I ain't gonna cry for you, and I ain't vulnerable. Kiss my motherfucking ass, and I guarantee you with that attitude, you'll get more women than if you act like this obsequious little cunt, or if you choose some kind of moderate middle ground. That's why women like bad boys, because bad boys just say, go fuck yourself. You want to complain? There's the fucking door. And then they complain, and they're with you for 5-6 years, and then they complain to their next boyfriend. Oh, my last boyfriend was an asshole. All the while they dream about him. Okay? They want the asshole, all right? Capacity to be vulnerable and nurture. This is bullshit. This woman's a feminist. And this whole fucking article is just about changing to make a woman happy. Nurture and blend it with the strength and power required of a self-respecting leader of men. You are a woman. You don't know a goddamn thing about what it means to be a real motherfucking man, cunt. Don't tell me this is an arrogant cunt bitch feminist trying to tell me how to be a man. Why would I tell you how to be a woman? Get in that motherfucking kitchen and cook me a fucking meal, bitch. Make me a fucking sandwich and shut your mouth. In other words, how can these men be all things to all people? To my mind, the answer is crystal clear. It can't be done, and it is counterproductive. Go. Just ask Steve. Yes, just ask Steve, who you told to be exactly what his wife wanted. Men should not strive to stay out of trouble. We should strive to... It seems like this article was flipping back and forth between this doctor and some guy. We should strive to be the best men we can be. Only then are we worthy of women's love. We shouldn't complain if women are unenthusiastic about our lack of direction. What? We should strive to be the best men we can be. Yeah, and that doesn't require a woman, asshole. Only then are you worthy of woman's love. What? What makes a woman so motherfucking great that I need to be worthy of her? What does she have to do to be worthy of me? Well, she just has to have a vagina, you know. That's all. Vagina is there. And that's all she needs. We shouldn't complain if women are unenthusiastic about our lack of direction. Oh, well, I would agree with that. But why would we want to be with somebody who has a problem with how we live our lives? Tell them to fuck off and get a new woman. She's not worthy of you. We certainly shouldn't cry victim if our spiritual listlessness drives them to the arms of men who pilot their own ships. Translation, women are hypergamous, and they always want a guy who's better off, and they will find him, and they will find some excuse to get away from you and get to him. I'm not suggesting that Dr. Gunther's patients are rudderless. Yeah, okay. Or that they deserve to be divorced. You just said they did deserve to be divorced. You just said it. You just said it. We certainly shouldn't cry victim if our spiritually listless drives the spiritual listlessness drives them to the arms of men who pilot their own ships. You just said it. You just said they do deserve to be divorced. Clearly they are well-intentioned men, undeserving of such pain. You just said they deserve it. Fuck yourself and your contradictory bullshit, you pussy. This is the woman talking again. I don't know. They're flipping back and forth between different sexes. One doctor and some other doctor. I don't know. Seems one of these speakers is a woman, another a man. I'm not suggesting the guy's patients are rudderless, or that they deserve to be divorced. Clearly they are well-intentioned, men undeserving of such pain, but perhaps men in general should explore the possibility that unmoderated accommodation eventually damages relationships. Maybe Steve can teach us a couple of things. So besides being a poorly written article that doesn't welly enough tell you who's speaking at the time, it's also bullshit. First is the importance of a solid emotional vocabulary. We are men. Go fuck yourself. I don't need an emotional vocabulary. Without it, a man can articulate the values by which he lives. Go fuck yourself. I got a good vocabulary, emotional or otherwise. You don't need to qualify it as emotional, which is a feminine label, by the way, nor can he communicate on matters of well-being with those he loves and serves. Serves? What the fuck? I don't serve anybody. Go fuck yourself with this disinformation article bullshit. The greatest men in history have possessed the ability to convey their internal experiences. Douglas MacArthur's farewell speech to West Point comes to mind. Few of us will attain the level of fluency, but we don't need to. All that's required is a basic verbal toolbox, the same skills that Steve developed. Without that, men lack one of the most important tools for aligning behavior with their values. They end up self-destructing in the proverbial basement, hiding from the cunt. Right. Some of us are reluctant. Of course, the solution to that is don't get married and don't live with a woman. There you go. Some of us are reluctant to study this skill because we've been taught to avoid emotional bullshit. The skill you're talking about is using logic and reason to essentially articulate your feelings and thoughts. That's a male skill, not a female skill, you dummy. You're some kind of doctor? Fuck off. I wouldn't pay you a fucking nickel to fucking help me. You couldn't help anybody. Supposedly it's effeminate to put words to our inner sensibilities. No, it's a masculine skill, you cunt. That's why the man couldn't do it, because he was taught to be a woman. But really, what's more masculine? Avoiding your problems, blaming others because you just can't win, or honing a basic skill and tackling issues head on. That's a male skill. It's not a female skill, by the way. If you've got your fucking understanding flipped around, it's not a female skill you're talking about. You're a horrible writer. Second, according to the book of Steve, every man needs to understand his own values, and those values must drive his behavior. This article is getting worse as I continue. It's not for me to say what a man's values should be, but you said what they are. You say it's not for you, but that's exactly all you've done throughout this entire article. But only that he must possess and protect them if he hopes to succeed in relationships. Protect. Not my job to protect anybody. Protect yourself. That means men must be willing to say to women, I will walk to the ends of the earth if it brings you happiness. Where's she walking for me? Oh, she's walking nowhere. She's not going to walk to the ends of the earth to me. But I need to be able, this is clearly a woman speaking now. So I need to do everything all in my power and then some, even dying to make you happy. But you don't need to do a goddamn thing just because of vagina. I see. Go fuck yourself, you self-serving cunt. I will adopt new behavior. What? I will adopt new behaviors if it eases your burden and feeds your love. Or feeds your... Yeah, Steve needed to change for his woman. No, Steve needed to change for Steve. Fuck her. I would have booted her ass out. I would have changed me for me and found a woman who appreciated me and liked me for me. I wouldn't become someone else for someone else. But I cannot relinquish my masculinity or my purpose. Fuck off. Steve was an idiot. I agree. But she was the one who fucked up. Men who disregard their values and cower from disapproval live in a spiritual vacuum. I agree. Relationships cannot thrive in such a space. I agree. We owe it to our loved ones to offer the best of ourselves. I disagree. We owe it to ourselves, not them, ourselves. And we can't blame women for abandoning us if we never present in the first place. You said earlier we can blame them. It's okay that they leave us because we have no direction for a man that has direction and is the pilot of his own destiny. And we can't blame them for that. And now you're saying that we can't blame them. We can't blame them. Well, okay, actually, you're just affirming what you already said. But before you said, never mind. There's so many contradictions in this fucking thing. Now, a brief addendum on 9/20/14. Just to clarify, there's nothing problematic about being a caring, sensitive guy. Yeah, there is. You're not a guy. You're a pussy. Heck, I'm caring and sensitive on alternate Tuesdays when I'm not scaring children, stealing parking spaces from the elderly. Degree of sensitivity is really not the point. Sensitive and caring guys can have strong values, and they're willing to fight for, often even more so, the guys who look tough. You mean than guys who look tough? You need to get a fucking grammar checker, idiot. And sensitive guy and a sensitive guy with strong values would seem to be the ideal. But obviously it's not, because the fucking bitch that they spoke about in this article didn't like Steve at all. It's the absence of values and the willingness to defend them that leads to problems in relationships. What this article really is a perfect example of how women will never be happy and how men need to just go their own way, because otherwise it means being a blue pill pussy or an unhappy guy in a relationship because you have to change who you are to make her happy. Fuck that shit. And fuck the idiot who wrote this. And fuck Dr. Gunther, who specializes in repairing relationships. Give me a break. I'm the MGTOW philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.